Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is actually a PayPal request for Enrico, who wanted my thoughts on 2 seasons of Married with Children, in particular seasons 3 and 4, found to watch on Daily Motion. Now, Married with Children is a show I had heard about, but had never actually seen. I mean, I'd see bits and pieces, but growing up, my family, we didn't have Fox. We didn't even have NBC. We had really just ABC, CBS, another version of CBS. So, yeah, didn't have that growing up. So, if I saw stuff like the X-Files, it'd be stuff that my aunt would tape for us. And, of course, she's not going to tape anything like Married with Children. But I heard that it was a crude show, that it was one of the breakout shows for Fox. Like, Married with Children was kind of might have been Fox's like first big hit. And then The Simpsons, then The X-Files, and more. I mean, so much so that it went for about 11 seasons. From like 1986, 87 to 1997. I mean, somewhere around there. 11 seasons for what I understand. Now, the cast, you got Ed O'Neill, who I remember from this film called Dutch. He is Al Bundy, the father, who always has his hand in his pants, and I would easily see Ed O'Neill as the best part of the show, even though his character is a sexist, and everything about this show is just so un-PC, so crude, that I'm sure it blew people's minds back then when it debuted in April 5th, 1987 to June 9th, 1997, okay? Just blew their minds. And even nowadays, like, you go on YouTube, you find people reacting to this stuff, and they go, this was on TV? Yes, and network TV, Fox. And that was sort of one of the things that made Fox, quote, the edgy network. And, of course, the critics took a dump on it because called it sexist and crude, and you looking back on episodes, there'd be cases of perhaps homophobia, fat shaming, women utilized as sex objects, viewed as sex objects. The way I looked at the show is that everybody was bad. That's the thing. It's put to such a farcical realm, such an over-the-top realm, that you can't really you're not supposed to take it that seriously. I think that's why watching these 2 seasons, I liked it more than, say, Roseanne, because Roseanne tried to have the Midwest family, but then, quote, realistic. But here, they went, you know what? Let's just go very over the top and silly and ridiculous. I didn't make a farce out of it. It was definitely more cruder, more sexier. A lot of jokes that I guarantee many other shows, a total opposite of, say, TGIF, where you had Family Matters, Step by Step, a different kind of sitcom, which is always one of the weird things about sitcoms is the laugh track, and this shows how little I watch TV nowadays. Do sitcoms still have the laugh track? I know it's a dumb question. Again, it shows how little I watch TV nowadays. But it's always weird that you need an actual audience to tell you, this is funny, ha 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 ha. So, it was always a strange thing, but at the same time, for many shows, it became almost a separate character of its own. So during this show, catcalling the sexy ladies and things of that nature. But I mean, you'd have Ed O'Neill and the mom, played by Katie Sato, who's the wife who's always pestering Al about money, and she never does work, she never gets a job, she never does work at the house. She is lazy, she's really dumb, she doesn't know shit about cooking. And one of the things about the show that I liked, I did, again, it's weird because every character is an awful person. Even the straightforward neighbors, which is Steve and Marcy, played by David Garrison and Amanda Beers, even they have their own weird stuff to it. I mean, the one guy, Steve, played by David Garrison, in season 4, he outright leaves his wife. Outright leaves him, which is season 3, they're fairly straightforward with a bit quirks, and then season 4, they were definitely get more crazier, and I guess the setup of them splitting apart, for what I understand, the actor wanted to go back to the theater, so that's why he wanted to leave during season 4. But okay, to get to the characters, Katie Siegel is the mom. Like I said, she's lazy. She's just careless about spending money, even though Al Bundy doesn't have it. You have the 2 children. Christina Applegate is Kelly, who is as bright as a burnt out light bulb and a complete and utter slut. And David Faustino is Bud Bundy, who we get the idea that he's pretty much a virgin, that he never gets girls, and him and Christina Applegate always argue with each other, with him calling her a slut or just somehow how stupid she is, she firing back on how he never gets laid, and again, conversations that was not typical of a sitcom, especially when this debuted in 87, and then by the time you get to the 3rd season, like 88, 89, and so forth. So those are the 2 kids. You have the 2 neighbors. I mentioned Steve, played by David Garrison, and Marcy, played by Amanda Beers. Yes, the same Amanda Beers from the original Fright Night. And I did not even realize she was in the show. Because I'm watching, I'm like, why does she look familiar? And then Amanda Beers, holy shit, that's from the original Fright Night. I did not know she was in the show. And a pretty big vital part of the show. So that was interesting. Because again, growing up watching her in Fright Night, that further shows how little I followed this show. Again, I knew of it, and I had seen pictures and clips, but never truly followed the show until, again, these 2 seasons. And like I was saying, that the jokes, like the Al Bundy, he never wants to have sex with his wife, and pretty much everyone hates each other. Everyone treats each other like crap, but yeah, at the same time, it's done in such a farcical, over-the-top nature, and with just the risque dialogue. Like talking about, well, that's why I use batteries. Talking about how Peggy T. Siegel's character will pretty much diddle herself because Al Bundy's not much of a man. I mean, very risque jokes that would not fly. You could probably barely have that fly in today's sitcoms, let alone back then. And funny enough, when the show debuted in the first 2 seasons, and the rankings, it was like 100 and something, like 140 or 160. And then during season 3, which is the season I watched, there was an episode, which I did watch the episode, Her Cups Runneth Over, and someone named Terry Ricolta from Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, led a boycott after viewing the episode. Offended by the images of an old man wearing a woman's garter and stockings, the scene where Steve the neighbor touches the pasties, I think they mean pastries on Wikipedia, of a mannequin dressed in S&M gear, a homosexual man wearing a tiara on his head, an owl's line, and they wonder why we call them queens. And the half-nude woman takes off her bra in front of Al and is shown with her arms covering her bare chest in the next shot. Terry Ricolta began a letter writing campaign to advertisers demanding they boycott the show. Advertisers began dropping their support for the show. Terry Ricolta made several appearances on TV talk shows, show's cancellation. Fox executives refused to air the episode titled I'll See You in Court. This episode would become known as The Law. It was aired on FX in June 2002 with some parts cut. which I believe I did see that episode too. Let me double check on the... I believe I did. Let me double check real quick. Yeah, I did, because it originally supposed to be around episode 10 or so. So I did see that. But I guess they were just covering their bases, because that's an episode where they're fooling around in a motel and they found out that they've been recorded. But again, it's done in such an over-the-top fashion that you can't take anything seriously, because every character is pretty much an idiot or a moron or just off the rocker, or either way, based on that old controversy, more people were actually interested. What is this show? What's calling all the ruckus? And then the ratings went up and stayed there for quite a bit for the other seasons. So I think they jumped by like from like 160 some to like 50 some. I mean, because it's Fox, so it's never going to get the huge numbers of an ABC, CBS, but it still did fairly well. And of course, I should mention the opening song for the intro, Love in the Marriage, Love in the Marriage, by Frank Sinatra. Sadly, I guess for rights issues, most of the times if you find an episode online to watch, it might even be on the DVD. Yeah, the Sony DVD box sets from season 3 onward do not feature the original theme song. This was done because Sony was unable to obtain the licensing rights to the song for later sets. But apparently Mill Creek Entertainment have released the 11 seasons on DVD, and it says here it does have the original theme song on it. But I don't know how true that is. But yeah, so they try to make a proclamation of the theme, but it's just not nearly as good as the Love in a Marriage by Frank Sinatra. I mean, it's Frank Sinatra. So I guess, depending on which version you find to watch, it'll be one or the other. But I guess getting to the seasons at hand, season 3, do the best I can. Again, I'm not really good at reviewing TV shows. You have episode 1, he thought he could, showcasing how dumb Peggy K-Seedle's character is, that she can't even pop popcorn right. There was some fun lines of dialogue in this one. Hey, that's my car battery. You stole it. Oh, that doesn't count. That was here before we were friends. Al Bundy reminiscing about his heyday and these awards, and then the awards get smaller and smaller as his life dwindled and dwindled. And then Peggy's like, yeah, everything about him is smaller. And then Al Bundy goes, oh, I'm sure you had nothing to do about that either, did you? Talking about dick. Mainly the story of this episode is that he has an overdue library book, and he's supposed to return it to this librarian that he hates, and she hates him. And even show a flashback of him as a kid, and the librarian asks him, can't you take one book? And the kid goes, Al Bundy as a kid goes, well, to be fair, can you eat just one pig? You know what? You taught me that even the slightest movement can make a fat woman sweat. You would never get away with this shit in today's age. Never get away with this shit. And pretty much the episode, he tricks the librarian into returning the book so he doesn't pay the fine. Caught on camera, and you think the librarian has the one over on him, and he gives this speech about, yeah, I'm a loser and all this, but you know what? The fact that I haven't put a gun to my head or haven't put a gun in my mouth, you know what? that makes me a winner. And, takes the fat librarian sugar away. So, that's his one thing to get back at her. And this is like the first full episode I see, and I go, yeah, okay, I see what kind of show this is. It's Ed O'Neill. I know he's found more success on the show of Modern Family, which I haven't seen. He was definitely the glue of the show. Because I will admit, as the season went on and the end of season 4, I even got a bit tired of watching it. Maybe it's because I was rushing through it, because I have a lot of other stuff to get to. But because, the side characters, especially Katie Siegel's Petty, she kind of got on my nerves, and the more I watched the show, the less I liked Katie Siegel. Not acting-wise, she didn't do a bad job, but just her character, Petty, just got on my nerves. It's like, I feel what Al Bundy feels. Like, the way Al Bundy feels about her, I started feeling that way. Tremendously. I'm like, I'm talking about the character. You fucking bitch. You fire crotch bitch. But I did that as Al Bundy's not a wholesome, good character. I mean, really nobody is. But in a weird way, I kind of felt for Al Bundy more and more. And I think one of the reasons, again, Ed O'Neill, just the goofy nature, how he delivers these certain lines. I would say he was the guy that got chuckles out of me. The way he would throw out certain pieces of dialogue. I would say him, and then just the interest of seeing Amanda Beers as the neighbor, and her and Ed O'Neill's characters, which apparently in real life there was friction. Like, you can find interviews that apparently Ed O'Neill and Amanda Beers did not get along. Like, I didn't even know, apparently Amanda Beers is a lesbian in real life, and there's an interview online where Ed O'Neill tells a story where at one point she was having a marriage with another lady, and she did not invite him, one of the few people. And he went up and talked to her, and she said, well, you would have laughed, because it'd be me and my lady, and we'd be in these suits. And Ed O'Neill starts talking, and then he starts laughing, and apparently Amanda Beers goes, see, I told you so. And then apparently Ed O'Neill said, and I told her, yeah, because I do think it's fucking funny. So I wasn't there. They did not get along with each other, but I found the story still pretty damn funny. Again, you can find it on YouTube, but maybe that helped the friction, the battle together, when they snipe at each other, and he keeps calling her chicken and chicken legs, and she's making fun of the way he smells or the way he looks. I mean, of these seasons, I can't really say there was a bad episode, and the fact of it's a sitcom that's 20-some minutes long. It's over-the-top breezy comedy. Ed O'Neill, I thought, did a great job in each of them. Again, as it went along, Petty got on my nerves more and more. But as going to episode 2, I'm going to Sweatland. Peggy, she's the type of wife who will steal money from the register of Al's workplace, which Al Bundy works at a shoe store. And she's such a dumb character. She thinks the dryer is the dryer noise is the doorbell. And the gist of the plot is she's doing Al Bundy's laundry, and she sees Elvis's face on a sweat stain. And then Amanda Beers sees it too, and they both freak out. You sweated Elvis Presley! And then that becomes a hot spot for Elvis fanatics. I did like Al Bundy's line, you're taking money off hard-working morons. And also the piece of dialogue where one person goes, why do women see Elvis yet men see stuff like UFOs? And then Al Bundy goes, because we have to. It's the only way we can get out of here. It's weird. Yeah, a lot of sitcoms seem to have dealt with the Elvis thing, because I remember even Elf, which is a sitcom I grew up with. I didn't, not because I had NBC, but because my aunt would send videotapes of certain shows that we didn't have access to. One of them was Elf. Even that dealt with episodes dealing with Elvis. And it's, dealing with the fanatics of Elvis taking over the house and things of that nature. So that was an entertaining one. Episode 3, Pokey High, or Poke High. And then showcasing how dumb Peggy is making burgers in the toaster. Or showcasing how dumb Christina Applegate's character is. I'm the soap girl. S-O-P-E. The gist of this story is there's a football game, and Al Bundy has a record there from his high school days, and this guy's going to break the record. Meanwhile, Christina Applegate's character, she's gung-ho for this football player, but he'll never pay attention to her. So a good chunk is them watching the football game, commenting, things of that nature. Amanda Beers shows that her character is not straight-laced as we think, because she's thinking in her head, looking at the football players, oh, spike me, baby, spike me. Which is not something I would think Amanda Beers would say. I didn't have a grown-up seeing her in Fright Night. So it was a bit interesting. I mean, one bit I did not like, I thought the bits of Christina Applegate constantly trying deliberately to get the football players' attention over and over again, I just thought got redundant and unfunny. And that's where it kind of made me go, really the only character I truly enjoy watching in the show is Ed O'Neill's character. And it's not that the actors do a bad job, or maybe Amanda Beers, like the two of them. The other characters, they're not bad acting-wise, but when it focuses on them, my interest wanes. Again, not that I dislike Christina Applegate. Beautiful. She plays the dumbbell well, not wrong. Same with Case Seagulls, but again, my interest would sort of wane until I got back to Ed O'Neill's character. So I thought that was the weakest part of the episode, but yeah, Christina Applegate's character costs the game, which keeps Al Bundy's record and makes him happy. And he's supposed to chastise his daughter, but he hugs her. Episode 4, it's the camping show. They even do a joke about the dueling banjos, and the whole family goes, and then all the girls start going through PMS. Again, some fun lines of dialogue. Go say something to your sister, but I don't even like her. Just do it. Hey, look, it's some of the 7 dwarves, puffy, crabby, and horny. That's what, again, when a lot of times when Ed O'Neill's character is saying stuff like that, it got chuckles out of me. And like a lot of the show, apparently, like they have a dog named Buck. I guess in future seasons the dog started talking. Because again, this is not supposed to be a show to take seriously. This is very much a silly, over-the-top, ridiculous show that spawned a lot of stuff. Apparently, all over the world, there were rip-offs, remakes to this show. And even on the WB, what was the show? Unhappily Ever After? I remember that had Bobcat Goldthwait and as the voice of the stuffed bunny, because the lead character, the father, was like schizophrenic. I think it was called Unhappily Ever After. And I remember seeing clips of that show. I'm like, yeah, that was definitely inspired by this one. Easily. But that guy was not as talented, who played the father, compared to Ed O'Neill. But I would say Ed O'Neill and just the off-the-cuff crazy jokes and humor and, appreciating beautiful women and the un-PC jokes, almost anything's fair game, which is kind of what's fun to watch considering the stuff we have nowadays. But that's the Canby show. Decent show. I mean, it got a bit silly, like I said, where he starts getting hurt by the animals, but we don't see it. We just see the result of it. And like, they don't turn to the great outdoors with John Candy. But episode 5, we got dump of my own. I did Al Bundy, has some fun lines. We all have to live with our disappointments. I have to sleep with mine. And the gist of this episode is Al Bundy gets a new toilet. The Ferguson, a man's flush. And you have, the rapport between Al Bundy and Peggy. If you need money, there's a job at the supermarket. And Peggy goes, you do that for me? You did a second job? Al Bundy's trying to build the bathroom in the garage. It's not working well. Which leads to one of the best lines in the show where Peggy goes, what does that toilet have that I don't? And Al Bundy goes, a job. It was also entertaining at the end where they do a dig at ABC because they go through the lineup like Roseanne and 30-something. And then that finally lets Al Bundy stop his constipation and take a shit. Especially on the 30-something, which I vaguely remember 30-something. But apparently the people who made the show were not fans. But despite the fact that it deals with a toilet as an episode, I thought that was a fairly entertaining one. Episode 6, that's the episode that got the start of the controversy. Her cups runneth over because it's Peggy's birthday. And Peggy goes, I want something that lasts longer than 3 minutes. And then always throwing shots to Al Bundy's manhood, and then he throws it back. And then more of Al Bundy and Amanda Beers, Ed O'Neill and Amanda Beers getting at it with each other. And she's like, why we need bras? And Al Bundy goes, do you keep the breasts off the table when you eat? But apparently Peggy's bra is discontinued. It's her birthday. So Al Bundy, lingerie store far away to get it. The neighbor Steve goes with him. And the both of them come in, and the worker assumes that they're gay, and then Al Bundy goes, if I was gay, don't you think I would get someone better than him? And yeah, you do have risque material. If you were my boyfriend, would you like this? And she shows her tits, but of course you don't see it because it's still TV. But you get the idea, and just Ed O'Neill just looks and just faints. Again, Ed O'Neill, he really made his role with his facial reactions, how he delivered the dialogue. It's too bad that, I mean, he was in movies. He was in The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, which I enjoyed. He was in that film Dutch, which I remember not minding. But he was in, what was it, Lou Diamond Phillips' movie, Disorganized Crime. But not a ton of films. Especially not much with a starring role. Probably because a film like Dutch did not do well at all when it came out. Episode 7, The Bald and the Beautiful, pretty much is about Steve the neighbor. You realize he's going bald. And Al Bundy doesn't have a great set of hair either. And they keep trying to find different ways to fix it. And at one point, the neighbor puts a match on Al Bundy's head, and he hates it. And then Al Bundy just gets a baseball bat ready to hit him with it. And then they have a meeting with these groups called the Bald American Dudes. I'm like, B-A-D. Oh, bad. B-A-D. Bald American Dudes. And again, Al Bundy's like, I looked at you guys, and I realized I really first off, I really miss shooting pool. Because the cue balls. At 2, I'm not bald. He's not bald, but you guys are bald. Really bald. It's a dick thing to say, but I don't know, the way Ed O'Neill says it, it comes off as just funny. I don't know how to put it. It just comes off as entertaining to me. But yet when Peggy Katie Siegel I don't know if it's with the way she looks or the tone in her voice, or it never seems like she has redeeming values. I don't know, just I really started to dislike that character. I think as my viewing went on. But episode 8, called The Gypsy Tried, pretty much they have a gypsy over and she sees good fortune for everyone except Amanda Bierce's character, and everyone's having good luck except her, and she has to go on this trip. So she mates to Al and Paige Bundy and her husband Steve the Dolan with her. And pretty much it's Al and Paige just listening to music, enjoying it. Amanda Bierce punches her boss because he keeps talking down to her and say, "Give me my drink." That's one I could say I didn't care for. I didn't really remember any fun bits of dialogue. Amanda Bierce did fine, but I don't know, it just wasn't really that funny. The story, really the bad stuff that the gypsy saw was that she ended up punching her boss, which is going to get her fired. I don't know, Ed O'Neill and even Katie Siegel, they didn't really have anything to do when they're in first class. They're pretty much just singing on headphones. A really nothing episode in my opinion, The Gypsy Tried. I would say that's maybe the first one I truly didn't give a shit about. Episode 9, Requiem for a Dead Barber. Al Bundy's favorite barber died, so he keeps letting his hair grow out until he finds another barber. And yeah, this is very un-PC because he goes to one barber shop and there's people who are very limp-wristed, feminine gay, and then Al Bundy freaks out. How do I feel about that? I mean, it's meant as a joke for comedy, so I don't really, I'd be interested if, I don't know, if any of my viewers happen to be gay. First off, there's nothing wrong with that, and B, I'd be curious to hear their thoughts on if they were offended or not by this type of stuff, or it's like, it's a joke meant to be funny. I'd be interested though. But the more on PC, he gets this one haircut, and his family keeps the way his family makes fun of him is like, "You look like a fruit. Oh, you look like the type to go, no closet can hold me. You need to wash the gay away." So it was a bit weird watching that episode. I mean, un-PC I'm fine with. This is like, okay, I kind of get it. It's like, a little bit, it's a little bit crossing the lines, like a little bit like, yeah. I mean, I get it. I don't know. So that one was a bit of a weird episode for me. It's like, I don't know. Almost like, if I'm trying to chuckle, I almost feel bad for it. Like, that one's like, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's hypocritical, but I think everybody's hypocritical in some way. That's how I view things. I don't know. Episode 10, I'll See You in Court. Apparently that was the lost episode, but I found to watch. A decent episode. Peggy wants to have sex with Al. He doesn't. Amanda Bierce says, "Oh, try a motel. Get some zest in your life." They go. Thankfully, you don't see anything. Al Bundy, "I know what's going on. The chocolate in the car, the oil on my zipper." So they do. And as they're doing, they're watching a tape of the motel, and they realize it's the neighbors, Amanda Bierce and the neighbors tape. And then they tell the neighbors, and the neighbors realize, you know what, they're probably going to have a tape of you too by now. And so they go to trial, and neighbors win, but Al Bundy and Paige don't win because the court goes, technically they didn't have sex because it was so quick. But Al Bundy is able to take Paige behind in the courtroom when everyone has left, and he lasts a lot longer this time, and apparently Paige really enjoyed it. So I guess that was deemed too risque I think maybe because all the controversy, that like we don't want to overdo it. But honestly, like the Requiem for a Dead Barber with all the gay stuff, the wash the gay away, I thought that was more risque than anything in this episode, but apparently the sex thing is too much for people. Like death and gore is cool, but sex, no. I'm like, no, sex is actually good, but what do I know? Episode 2, My Mom, The Mom, which is a weird title. Pretty much Peggy is supposed to make cookies for Christina Applegate's career day, and she doesn't know that TBS stands for tablespoons. Meanwhile, Al Bundy takes his kid, the boy to, well, not boy, the teen kid. I don't remember the actor's name. I mean, again, this actor did fine, but I can't really say. David Faustino as Bud, he did fine. I mean, I wouldn't say he was essential, and I love the character, but he did fine for what he was supposed to do. But Al Bundy takes him to the shoe store to show him where money comes from, while Peggy goes to Christina Applegate and pretty much teaches all the kids, all the lady kids there, how you don't have to work, and you want to cook, just order up, and just all the bad things that you're supposed to do. So I can't really say I enjoyed that episode, because again, the stuff with Peggy honestly was some of my least favorite stuff. I just grew to dislike the character more and more. Maybe that's just me, but... And this was more her episode, but that's just me. Episode 13, Can't Dance, Don't Ask Me. This is when I started noticing Faustino's his character, Bud, has a haircut that's pretty much like Billy Ray Cyrus, like a full-on mullet haircut. Which by the 4th season, that's trimmed down. But here in the 3rd season, it's true white trash Billy Ray Cyrus look. The gist of the story, Christina Applegate did something. She has to join the school's tap dance club. And then by the end, she starts doing this stuff that gets everybody hot and horny, except the parents. So they didn't go that far. Again, I can't really say this episode did much for me other than Christina Applegate was hot to look at. But again, I can't really say, oh, I was so mad and angry. It's mad at a sitcom that only goes 20-some minutes, and I say like Ed O'Neill and the other actors are not doing a bad job, and I like Amanda Bierce's character. You know, I like her performance, I should say. But, I don't know. Some you like more than others. Episode 14... This I did enjoy a bit more than the other the past couple episodes. 3 jobs, no income family. It's pretty much Peggy telling Al to get a second job, but then she gets a job working cosmetics, and she's making more money than Al. So Ed O'Neill doesn't like that, so he does get a second job. You do have some fun lines of dialogue in this, like, I'd rather have a catheter the size of a garden hose before getting a second job. Or life didn't pass me by, it sat on my head. And it's so poor, Al makes a sandwich out of toothpaste. He gets a second job at Burger Trek, and lo and behold, fucking Pauly Shore appears. I mean, this is well before The Weasel. I mean, Encino Man, well before that. This is like 1988. 89? Probably around 89 or so. Yeah, about 89. So, this is early Pauly Shore, and he's there being Ed O'Neill's boss. And, you know, not being an asshole boss, but still, you know, being a boss. He's like, you pulled another burger boner. I mean, I reviewed Biodome, I reviewed The Son-in-Law. I like Pauly Shore, some of his movies. I enjoy Encino Man. My favorite's In the Army Now. I like Son-in-Law. His other films, not so much, like Biodome, Jury Duty. Pauly Shore is Dead. Did not hold up, but I still don't mind him, and it was interesting to see him in an early role like this. And with the hair that we have and the son-in-law and such. So that was a bit of a surprise. And also it was fun. Peggy finally gets her comeuppance. Just another thing. It seemed like Peggy, she does all this stuff, but like Al Bundy always gets a comeuppance, but Peggy rarely gets a comeuppance. And this is like one of the few times I saw her get a comeuppance where Peggy screwed up. Now she's working the fast food. I'm like, finally. Thank you. Episode 15, The Harder They Fall. Again, some funny lines. The neighbor goes, "I'm really upset with your wife." And Al Bundy goes, "Kill her." Pretty much what happens is that the neighbor Steve was driving home with Peggy. Some guy cut him off. Peggy gave him the middle finger. And so the guy got pissed. So Steve is really worried that the guy's going to come over and beat him up. So he invites the family, the Bundys, to his house. And also the Bundys have a beta, but Steve and Amanda Bierce's characters have a VHS tape, a VCR, I should say, a VCR, which again shows just how old the episode is. So that was kind of fun. Beta VCR, and there's jokes on that nature. And what happens here is that by the end, the guy does come over, but it's a little guy. And he's really not that bad of a guy. And then the family steal the food and the VCR as they fucking leave. But yeah, let's see. Episode 16, The House That Paid Lost. Pretty much what happens here is Christina Applegate's character is going to have a party, and the neighbors, Peggy fucked up because she did not listen to what this guy said because he works for a wrecking crew, and Peggy thought it sounded similar to the house next door, so she said, "Oh, it's over there." And so when then Amanda Bierce and Steve come home, their whole house is gone, so they have to stay over, and Amanda Bierce and Steve are just really sad about it. I guess they never explain how the neighbors get their house back because everything's perfectly fine the next day, but that's a common trope with sitcoms, is that something extravagant and crazy can happen, but it doesn't matter because the next day everything's fine. Whether it be they lost, where are they going to get this money from? A house that's gone. There's another episode where they're in the middle of nowhere and they're waiting for the dog to come back for help. The dog never does, but then they're perfectly fine the next episode. So again, like I said, you don't take the show that seriously. And that one, I didn't mind the guy who played Steve and Amanda Bierce, like their interactions. I would say that was the best part of that episode. Episode 17 to 18 is a two-parter where Peggy wants to be the prom queen and going back to the reunion, and Al Bundy doesn't want to. But when he does, things actually go well for Al. I thought it was a nice little change of pace where he's having talks with friends and he's doing well with his buddies. And this guy who wanted to fight him in the past, they finally do have a fight. And Al Bundy's like, "Let's rock." And they died. And when they come back, you realize that Al Bundy won the fight. The kids, they're pretty much starving because it shows how shitty these parents are. The part one is pretty much Peggy convincing Al to come to the reunion, and then part two is the reunion itself. And one scene, "What's that in your pocket?" And Al Bundy goes, "My rib." So, I mean, did this really need a two-part episode? No, I mean, really, everything dealing with the reunion, it could have just been that. Like, the part 1 could have been condensed to like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, to be perfectly honest. I think it was by this point where I was really, really starting to dislike Peggy as a character, by Katie Seto's character. I was really starting to dislike her character. I just got annoyed with the way she acts and the way her character behaves, and of course she would become famous as Leela on Futurama, and she was on the TV show 8 Simple Rules. She was also on the show Sons of Anarchy. And she's not a bad actress, it's just, again, the character is really down my nerves at this point. Episode 19, The Dateless Amigo. The interesting part of this is, briefly, we see Bud's, the teen kid's buddies. And it's 2 people you recognize, Giovanni Ribisi and Steven Dorff. Yes, episode 19, The Dateless Amigo, at the beginning, Bud's friends are Giovanni Ribisi and Steven Dorff. And they do appear a couple times in the episode. I thought that was interesting. And that made the episode stand out. And the gist of it is that they don't have girls come over, but Bud can't get a date, so he gets a mannequin and he fakes it, and they buy it. And at the end, he's taking the mannequin upstairs. It keeps falling apart, but no one notices except the audience, who's laughing about it. So probably one of the few times that the Bud character, I keep forgetting the actor's name, David Faustino, got somewhat center stage. Episode 20, The Computer. Pretty much the gist of it is the family wants a computer, even though they don't know what to do with it, and Al Bundy doesn't, but they don't listen to him. One of the lines that stuck out was, Peggy talks about Christine Applegate. She could be the first Bundy to go to college. And Al Bundy goes, my uncle went to college. And then she goes, he was a cadaver for the pre-med students. That's why he went to college. But the computer's bought and no one's using it. And then the computer starts talking to Al, which I thought was a bit weird. But yeah, it's trying to be that silly, goofy nature like a lot of sitcoms back then were, or even some to this day, I guess. And so it starts talking to Al, and Al, the one bit I did enjoy was the computer going, oh, no one would be stupid enough to smash a computer, like, and then Ed O'Neill smashes the shit out of the computer. So I thought that was a fun way to end the episode. And it's interesting that an early show in the 80s, well, it's interesting that a sitcom would deal with the computer, and considering how much computers have changed nowadays. So just a little bit interesting in a retro fashion to see computers back then. Episode 21 was a fun episode. Pretty much the family go. A woman comes on to Al, and Peggy blinds him. This one little girl gets attached to Bud, and he's like, oh my god. And so he can't get anybody because of that. It was just interesting to see them in somewhat of a different location, not just the house consistently. I really have nothing much to say about the episode. I just thought it was a bit of a fun episode. Episode 22, Here's Looking at You, Kid, the final episode of Season 3. Pretty much is about Peeping Tom on the loose, and Peggy keeps wanting sex, but Al hates it. And then by then, Al pretends to be the Peeping Tom. The one bit I enjoy was, ooh, cookies. He starts eating the cookies. I guess because of the name Peeping Tom, Ed O'Neill just starts going, peep, peep, peep. The reason he's doing it is to make his wife feel better, because she's sad that everyone has been peeped on except her. So, I mean, even though there's a lot of hatred, it's just that there's somewhat, Ed O'Neill somewhat likes her some way. And of course he gets in trouble, but then, because they think he's the Peeping Tom, but then that works out. And not a bad episode to end it. I would say between the seasons, I might have liked season 3 a bit more than season 4. I know this is about 50 minutes in, so I will probably cut it and just separate it. So here's season 3 and then season 4. So that's, otherwise it's just going to be well over an hour video. So I'll just cut it here and then I'll start recording my thoughts on season 4. Thank you once again, Enrico. If anyone wants to send in requests via PayPal for pretty much any kind of video, you can do so in the info box. My PayPal directly or Patreon. You can join that if you wish. Either way, thanks for watching. Take care. We will see you guys later. Bye-bye.